Hello and welcome back to this beginners series. Last week I asked you to write the rest of the story about Grace and Preston yourself. I wonder what you came up with. I thought about it and I thought there were a number of options. Option number one, she could have taken Preston's advice, and with the card that she received from her ex, she could have returned to sender. Option number two, she could have destroyed it. Had she have destroyed it, maybe she wouldn't have hurt the feelings of her ex quite so much if she'd returned it. And option number three, she could have kept it. Now, had she have done option one or option two, she probably would have been able to tell Preston the truth. But if for any reason she'd kept it, she would have had to have told him a lie, which is not a good way to start married life. However, in my story, she did number three. She kept it in her treasure box. So it doesn't bode well for the future, but she just couldn't bring herself to do one or two. So let's have a look at this next couple then, Caroline and Mark. When Caroline and Mark have a child, the child looks a little bit like Caroline, a little bit like Mark. So what will the combination of the C and the M look like then? Well, it looks like a C that's been sat on. In other words, it does form a C, but it's as wide as the M, and it's like an M that's reflected in the water or in the mirror. Some textbooks refer to it as an open-ended rugby ball. Of course, C and M will never come together in a word. There will always be an intervening vowel. The thing to remember is that it doesn't matter whether the sound in the word is K or S, as in cemetery with a S sound, or chemist with a K sound. If it's spelt with a C, vowel M, or in the case of chemist, the H would be silent, so it's still C, vowel M really, then we use this CM blend. The most common word employing the CM blend will be the word come. And that can also say came. However, some people like to differentiate between the two by putting the A indicator inside the CM blend to represent came. However, most of the time the sense of the sentence will tell you the difference. Let's have a look at some more words then, employing this CM blend. You'll notice that as I write them on the board, it's sometimes easier to include the intervening vowel. So let's take a word like Cameron. Well, a name like Cameron, which would be the name of Caroline and Mark's child for this story. So CM, I'm going to put the E indicator in and then the RN. It makes the outline sharper and therefore it's easier to read. If we sweep straight up between the CM and the R, sometimes at high speed it can look a little bit less distinguished. So now let's have a look at the word camera. CM blend E-R-A. And now the word campaign. CM blend P and N. Now see if you can write for me the word commentator. So com, E indicator N, tator. So you're employing the single length T and the double T for TR in the word commentator. Now will you write for me compare and comparison? So the P and the R are separated by a vowel, so you write the P and the R. And when we change that to comparison, that S will go inside the curve of the N. Now will you write comparatively? So CM, parative, and did you remember to kick the L out of words that end in ly and just put the I indicator for comparatively. Next one, a little bit more difficult this time, comprehend. If you need more time to think, pause the video before you look at the outline. So CM blend, PR comes together this time, so we write the P and lift the pen. That will indicate that the R is there. And then at the side of it, HND, comprehend. Now have a go at comprehensive. Very similar, of course, comprehensive, making sure that S is outside the angle. The next word, comfort. So CM blend, FR blend, and then of course the T is disjoined after that upward stroke R. And the last one, the word committee. So CM blend, I, T and E. Now that last word can be used very well in word groupings because we use it quite a lot, as you can imagine, in meetings. So we can have a social committee. So remember from last time, the disjoined S says shall, and all we write is the itty, I-T-E, social itty. Your itty for your committee. This itty for this committee, and so on. All you've got to remember is to write it close to the preceding word. It saves having to write it in full each time. Now I'm going to show you a special outline which employs a CM blend, and that is this one, CM and I, and that says community. So if you'll mark that on your special outlines list, that can be part of your daily practice. So now I'm going to dictate some sentences about baby Cameron. So we'll start with, all the family came to see Cameron. So we start then with all the, so A indicator L and straight down for the. Family, FM blend, L goes upwards after an M. When the L goes upwards, the I goes upwards. Came, new word for today, with or without the A indicator. To see could be joined together, and baby Cameron, CM blend, E and RN blend. Sentence 2. They all took pictures with their camera. So they all took pictures. P, C, T doubles for R. With there could be this, with, and a long T for THR, and camera, including the E indicator and the A. Third sentence. There is no doubt he is a beautiful baby, said Mark's sister, Camilla. Now look at that grouping that we did before. There is no doubt. So you've got the long THR for there, S inside that curve of the N. I always put the O in for not, and then DT for doubt. There is no doubt. He is a beautiful baby. So he is a could be joined. Beautiful, T comes off the top of the B and the FL can go down, or it could have gone upwards. And baby, B, B, I, said Mark's, double M for R, sister, double T for R. Now, I've had to include the I indicator in order to be able to join that S to the second S. And her name is Camilla, so CM blend, L and A. So, there is no doubt he is a beautiful baby, said Mark's sister Camilla. Next one. She became emotional as she held Cameron in her arms. So she, now became, B, I'm going to put the E indicator in to help me to join that CM to the B. Emotional is E indicator M, then the shun, and if the L goes upwards after an N, then it also goes upwards after a shun. So emotional. She became emotional as she held Cameron in her arms. As she held, I'll put L after the H, Cameron in her. Now I wonder if you've remembered that Arthur likes Mars bars. So words that begin with AR, the next consonant goes inside. So arms would have the M written inside. And the next sentence, Mark composed a piece of music to welcome Cameron into the world. So Mark composed, CM blend, P, S outside the angle, a piece of music to welcome, this time starts with the well and then the CM, Cameron into the, and you can just put the big circle for world, like the globe. Mark was an accomplished pianist. Now that's a difficult one, accomplished. Think about it before you write it. So Mark was and could be joined. Now A indicator, CM blend, lift the pen because the PL comes together. Then the S for SH and D. If you got that right, you did really, really well. There was a lot to think about in that word. Pianist is P-N-S-T, making sure the S is outside the angle. Now I'm going to clean the board because the rest of the sentences won't fit on. So if there's any notes that you wish to take before I do that, or you can come back, of course, and pause the video, because at the end of this we'll have 80 words and I'm going to dictate them at a speed. And the story continues. Cameron's grandmother made a comparison between Cameron and his cousin. So, Cameron's grandmother, long T for THR, made a comparison. Now between, you've got to remember that WN blend, so bring in that N after the W, between Cameron and his cousin. That's a difficult one because you've got to put the S outside one curve and inside the other, unless of course you retain a medial vowel. Next sentence, the cousin scampered off, disinterested. So the cousin, now scampered, it's SCM this time, so you just took the S inside the CM blend, scampered off, disinterested. Now hopefully you've remembered that words that begin with or that have in them INT, IND, INS and INC don't have to have the N. So disinterested could be written like this, distrusted. Don't have to disjoin that TR because the S is separating it from the D already for you, but you do have to appreciate that that could say TR or DR. In this case, I think it's quite obvious that it is disinterested. Last sentence. Soon the family went home and Mark cooked scampi for dinner. So SN, soon. V, we've had family before, so FN blend, L goes upwards, I goes upwards. Went, WN blend again, home. And Mark, double that N, make sure it looks doubled. Cooked. Now, do you remember when we have the word cook? It's a K, but when we change it to cooked, we would change it to the C for swiftness, because it's difficult to do the chip chopped chip of the K and the D. Scampi, so again, tuck that S inside the CM blend. Scampi for dinner. So now I would advise you to pause the video. You've got 2 boards of outlines. Practice the ones that perhaps you didn't get right the first time. And then we're going to try this piece of dictation 2 minutes at 40 words per minute. Ready? All the family came to see Cameron. They all took pictures with their cameras. There is no doubt he is a beautiful baby, said Mark's sister, Camilla. She became emotional as she held Cameron in her arms. Mark composed a piece of music to welcome Cameron to the world. Mark was an accomplished pianist. Cameron's grandmother made a comparison between Cameron and his cousin. The cousin scampered off, disinterested. Soon the family went home and Mark cooked scampi for dinner. When you come to transcribe your notes, there's 80 words there, so you should be able to transcribe those in about 8 minutes. When you do transcribe, you'll notice that there's a slight difference between what I was dictated and what was on the board. And that slight difference is about the composition of the music. So I said, Mark composed a piece of music to welcome Cameron to the world. Whereas in the notes I'd said into the world. So just a very slight difference there. So make sure that you've not penalised yourself unnecessarily. If you did make that error in an exam and you put to the world instead of into the world, of course you would be penalised with 1 error. So it is important to transcribe exactly what was dictated. Earlier I showed you a special outline which relates to the CM blend, and that was this one, community. I'm going to show you 2 more special outlines. Both of them relate to the doubling principle. This is the first one, a Y, S outside the angle, and a T doubles for R, and that says yesterday. And this one, starting with the T on the T line, and the M doubles for R, and that says tomorrow. But back to today, I'm now going to add a word grouping that I think you'll find very useful, which relates to the CM blend. Instead of just showing it to you, I'm going to put it in a sentence form. See if you can read the sentence and see if you can recognise the word grouping without me telling you exactly what it is. So this is the sentence. Pause the video if you need more time. And now hopefully this one to begin is if you chop the wood, kick the L out of like. So a beautiful outline there for if you would like. 2, CM blend PR. We know there's a vowel between the P and the R, so we've got compare. These, the H comes straight down, so we know it's not this. It must be these because it comes straight, the same as the E indicator. Items. I am sure you will. And then this is the word grouping that I want you to read. So I'll leave that out. That they are, and then SM, L goes upwards after an M, and it's doubled to add the R for the word similar. So reading it again, if you would like to compare these items, I am sure you will. That they are similar. So there's 4 words in this grouping. The first word employs the CM blend. The middle 2 words are minor words and therefore they've not been included at all. And the final word has got the C, the L and the shun. You know the shun from last time. So now hopefully you've got come to the conclusion. Conclusion is all we have to write. Further reinforcement that Teeline is so exciting. So Caroline and Mark's story hasn't been quite so interesting, perhaps, as Brenda, Grace, Cruella and Preston. However, Caroline's sister, Caitlin, is a very interesting character. And next week we're going to look at Caitlin and Neil's story, and perhaps we can add a little bit more interest to that. So join us again next time. In the meantime, don't get worried and don't get stressed. Let's love Teeline together.